It's the waitingfornextyear.com podcast. The Cavaliers are up 2-1. Brian Spaeth is on the line. How's it going, Brian?
I'm really good today.
Yeah.
Yeah. How are you?
Despite all the tiredness.
Yeah, tired. It's the games are draining, and then especially like the last two wins, I always have a hard time sleeping after the games in these finals or in the playoffs. Really, it seems like, but the ones where you win and you're up, it's even harder to go to sleep than the ones where you're anguished. So it's been. I didn't go to bed last night. I didn't go to sleep. I just couldn't sleep. So whatever.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you my story very quickly because yours is better. Because you actually went to the game, but I decided to leave my house because the pressure of these games and sitting, not by myself, my wife and I watch them together, but not having other Cavs fans around or a bunch of other Cavs fans around makes it much more difficult. My experiences of watching playoff games with our good friend Dave down in Akron in a public setting was amazing, and so I went out last night to a bar in Mayfield with some friends of mine. I wasn't even drinking anything other than Red Bull because I was just trying to stay awake. But it was so much easier. I mean, it was still nerve-wracking, but it was so much more fun and better to watch it with a bunch of people. And with that, you watched it at the Q with the bunch of people.
Yeah, I watched it with LeBron. Is how I like to think of it. So, we had different vantage points, but we basically watched it together.
Mayfield, the Q, whatever.
Yeah, it was really, I can say, like, without question, that was the best sporting event I've ever gone to. It beats I've been to some cool things. Every time the World Series we've been in the World Series, I've been to games in that. I was at a finals game last time. I've been at some cool playoff games. I went to the season opener where LeBron returned. I've been to a lot of stuff. But man, this was by far the best thing I've ever been to. It wasn't just because it was important, although the importance of the game fed, why it was what it was. But I'm trying to think, where to start. It's
well, let's start back earlier because you were, it wasn't like evil but you were kind of despondent after game one. And the Kyrie injury, and I know a bunch of people who listen to the podcast also subscribe to the newsletter, so they've been up to speed on some of this stuff. But you weren't exactly feeling the most confident after game one.
No, well, let's go back all the way. Before the series started, I had said Cavs in 5, and I was very confident about that. Despite what all the odds said, despite what Vegas said, besides what all the pundits were saying. I was sure about it, but in my head, it played out in that they had to get game one because I was banking on I keep thinking New Orleans. See, I'm very tired. I was banking on Golden State's inexperience. And
no, you had it right the first time. New Orleans Warriors.
Yeah, right. The New Orleans Warriors. I was banking on their inexperience, and I was kind of punching them in the mouth and setting them off, and them not being able to really recover from that. And when it didn't happen, and then Kyrie gets hurt, and basically we melt down in overtime. I just said that's it. We're probably done because what are we gonna do? That can only energize them. And honestly, based on LeBron's finals history, it wasn't a sure thing that he was going to be so locked in. But based on just a talent standpoint, it just seemed like it was just going to be too difficult. But what I couldn't predict is this full transformation into this defensive juggernaut, and also the complete evolution of LeBron James into everything that we've ever needed him to be, both as an athlete and as a member of the Cleveland community, where if there's anything is like he's always been. I mean, look, he's LeBron James. He's a professional athlete. Now I'm going to get very hyperbolic here because I really feel like it. And but man, there's something about him being an underdog in this, and something about him being in the position he's in, and just the way they're playing, gutting it out, playing ugly, doing whatever it takes. That is so Cleveland, to be really cliched about it. It's we always wanted him to be one of us, and when he left, it was kind of like, well, God, he never was, you know.
I'm the $10 million mansion in Miami Beach.
Yeah, exactly. That's who he always was. He was just biding his time to show it. But man, he really is everything I'm saying sounds like a cliche, but he's like, it just feels like he's all in. To use the Cavs' own slogan,
Yeah.
it just feels like he is everything we've always wanted him to be now.
Well, and let's go back. Let's go back in time a little bit further because the Cavaliers did kind of transform into this for the two games where they were missing Kyrie against Atlanta.
Yeah.
But I think it was really hard for any of us to kind of transform or not transform, but carry over that experience and apply it to what we thought of Golden State because of all the superlatives people had been using with Golden State and the fact that Steph Curry wins the MVP.
Yeah.
Were we guilty of just kind of buying into the hype? Or, I mean, it's so hard to figure out where credit is due for the Cavaliers and LeBron, which is a ton, and also trying to figure out if how much the opposition did or did not show up, so to speak, because that's been the recurring theme of the Cavs through the East was, well, they weren't tested. They weren't tested by Chicago because of this. They weren't tested by Boston because of that. They weren't tested by Atlanta because of this.
Well, there's a lot of points in there. So this, starting with Atlanta and the fact that we did kind of see this team versus Atlanta, this version of the Cavs. I know for me, I never felt threatened by Atlanta at all. I didn't think they were actually that good. Mm-hmm. And so gauging whether what the Cavs were doing were because they were actually that good and they were being tested and they were proving it, or was this just inferior competition, which is what a lot of people thought. There was no way to know that. And I just kind of assumed it was inferior competition. And I just said, there's no way they're going to be doing this against this Golden State team look, historically, like by the numbers, by the look, by everything, like this Golden State team is one of the best regular season teams ever. Like all the stats say that. From their win total to their win to their point differential, all that stuff. So yeah, it was just hard to believe that this could happen. But I think Golden State has shown up. Now, last night they were definitely deflated, but the first two games they showed up. The thing is the way we're playing, they cannot do anything that they normally do. And they've never had to play like this. They don't know how to play like this. And the frustration of not being able to play how they want to is really starting to show. And it really showed in Game 3. You saw there was one play that stuck out to me more than any other. It was when Curry drove. He wasn't getting outside shots, so he tried to drive. He drove right up the middle, and he put up a little like floater, and it clanked off the front of the rim like short. And you could just see in the way he shot it, in the way it missed, and in his reaction afterward, it's like he's totally out of his game. And
you know what's really weird is that because Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors are still so new in the NBA landscape, nobody is looking at their really awful body language or the looks that Steph Curry makes and judging him harshly. It's like everybody still has sympathy for them.
Yeah, well, they're exciting and they're young, and Steph Curry seems like a really nice guy, and he's got a cute kid and all this stuff. I don't. There's none of these Warriors that I really dislike. Even Draymond Green, like I really like. I'd love to have him on my team.
Iguodala, I like him too.
Yeah, I like all these guys, and I think a lot of people like them, and they're a fun team, and their coach is really likable, and there's nothing to hate about these guys. And there is something very, exciting about this. They're kind of the sexy pick, if you want to put it that way. They got kind of the retro Golden State Warriors. Their logo's cool. The way they play is like cool. It's everything about them is like cool, where they're located, everything about it. It's like that. Without being a big it's not a put on. All those things are actually true. So, I don't remember the point.
We're just so tired.
I know. No, I think they showed up. I think we have just taken them completely out of everything they do, and they haven't been able to adjust, and they don't know how to play like this. And you saw last night, they said, well, maybe we should put in David Lee and try and go a little bit bigger. And that I'm not sure how much that worked and how much the fourth quarter. I tend to think that was a general, like, when you get a big lead, you tend to let up a little bit. And
just general fatigue because the Cavs are playing such a short roster.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, oh, well, okay, we're up 20. That's we can relax a little bit. Well, you can't really do that against them because, as we saw, they can put up like 8 points in a minute. So that's all that was. I hope. And LeBron even said after the game, I as we were watching, I sat there and I said, we're running with them. We can't do this. We we have to go back to like play slower. Get the pace that got them 55 points in the first three quarters, which is astounding.
Yeah.
And LeBron saw it, and I assume everyone else saw it too. And so hopefully we come out back to that kind of hammered out, grinded out. We'll see if they it'll be interesting if they start David Lee in the fourth game.
I assume that Golden State has a run like that in every they have that capability in every single game, and that I just don't. I guess a closeout game, if the Cavaliers were to somehow break their will, if the Cavaliers win one more and they've got a closeout game, maybe it's game 6 at home.
Yeah.
I could see them blowing out Golden State. But in any other scenario, I think every game is just going to be like this, where it's going to come down to the last 3 to 5 points in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think so. It's really interesting how much experience matters.
Because the Cavaliers have dominated, and it still has come down to the last.
Yeah, it's starting to feel like this is going to be one of those 5-game sweeps. It's really starting to feel that way for me because I like I said, first 2 games, like Golden State seemed in it, but last night they seemed really like beleaguered by what was happening and really getting frustrated. And if the next game is like this as well, as far as pace and style of play, I believe that's going to continue. They don't really know how to win ugly. Or at least they don't, you know what it is? Because they won a game and they could have won the second game. And they could have won last night. Although I feel last night, that fourth quarter really feels like kind of an anomaly to me based on the rest of the game. The way they played the fourth quarter was unlike the way they haven't been able to play like that the whole series.
No, you're right.
That really felt like an anomaly to me.
All right, let's put the shoe on the other foot though. Let's pretend that the teams are opposite in terms of who won which game. The Cavaliers won game 1 at home. They lost game 2 at home, and they lost game 3 on the road. Mm-hmm. So your tables are turned. If Golden State had the veteran leadership, the LeBron factor. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be panicked if I'm a Golden State fan, but I don't know that there is that guy in their locker room. I don't know if Steve Kerr can do this, who can convince them, look, if we just win, it doesn't matter what happened in the last 2 games. If we just win game 4, we're headed home. And we're way back in the driver's seat. We've got all the momentum. So just forget everything that happened. I feel like the Cavaliers have that kind of leadership right now, and that's one of those things that we're seeing in the body language during games.
Yeah, and that comes down to experience, and it's such an intangible thing. Like what you learn from being in. Look, I've never been a professional athlete, so I'm going partially on what everyone says, and partially what I'm seeing. But the intangible thing of experience, and everybody looks like they're playing hard, and everybody. But what is that? What is that thing when they say who wants it more? And how do you do that? Because that's not like a thing that you just like, oh, okay, now I'm going to want it more. And that means my heart rate's going to raise to 160 beats per minute that's not how it works, It's an intangible thing. And what we're seeing is like the summation of LeBron's experience now, where he just like something different has clicked for him. And it is as much as it's intangible, it's also tangible when you look at it. The emotion he displayed at the end of game 2 when they won, that was something that I had never seen in 12 years of watching him, or however long it's been. It was different. And it was kind of this thing that was just like, I am going to, and I used to say this about him in like 2007, 2008. I used to get really frustrated with him because I used to say, I need to see something, some aura around him, whatever it is, that tells me that he is going to destroy anything that's in his way. That killer mentality, the thing that has always been kind of the knock about him, even when he's dominated, that you always kind of question, well, wait, is he going to just not show up the next, is chill mode going to show up?
Well, it's really interesting, too, because I think there's this innate passion in being young, where you're just that passionate because it's part of the hormones. I mean, LeBron was a teenager when he came into the NBA, and everything was still going crazy for him. And then you hit this level where you're like, all right, well, I'm going to be mature now. But you're really doing an impression of what it means to be mature.
Right.
And so you're tamping down all those emotions. And then you get to a maturity level where you can start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, or I guess not the light at the end of the tunnel, but you feel a little bit more mortal. And it feels like LeBron, and I don't know what it is, but it feels like that passion is at a different level right now, where I felt like the end of his run in Cleveland and even into the Miami run, he was kind of pretending to do his best impression of what he thought maturity looked like.
Yeah. And look, I'm with you. Psychoanalyzing LeBron from afar with no actual firsthand knowledge is my favorite. It's my favorite thing in the world. I love it. But yeah, I look, it's the intangible thing of he knows how to do it now, and this is what Golden State and Steph Curry is going through, and hell, they may go through it. When they went through it last night, and in Game 4 they're going to come out and dominate. We don't know, but from a basketball standpoint, like. This is if they go ahead and win this. Look, if they go ahead and win this, first of all, there's going to be a lot of things we need to talk about, like whether they're going to eventually retire all 15 of these guys' numbers for the Cavs, which I would not say is an unreasonable thing to do. But the thing that is going to come of this, this is going to be if you're looking at Golden State's growth pattern. This is their defeat. This is their setback. This is where they learn how hard it is, which is what we all thought we went through in 2007 with the finals. Unfortunately, it didn't work out that way.
Yeah, we thought that was such a jumping off point.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was like really just happy to be there in 2007 with the Cavs, because I'm like, well, this is the night. We're actually ahead of the curve here, because we didn't that us beating the Pistons that year was an upset. That wasn't supposed to happen. So I'm like, well, we're ahead of the game here. This is where LeBron will learn how to lose in this series, and then next year he comes back and he dominates. Well, it didn't work out that way. You can look at Oklahoma City. It didn't work out for them that way either when they lost. They never made it back. So I guess it's those types of things that maybe LeBron has really learned, because he has made it back and lost again. And so it's like, this is where I think if this does work out and they win, again, obviously it means a lot, but for the next 4 years of Cavs basketball, 5 years, like this is, LeBron is going to know, allowing that his body holds up, which I think it will. Like, he knows he can win with anybody, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
and I was watching the post game interview with Dwayne Wade. And
that was so interesting.
It was so weird and interesting. But one of the biggest takeaways, there were a lot of takeaways, but one of the biggest takeaways was LeBron's realization. And I don't think he was just making it up, but this idea that he knows that he's defied the odds to get this team to where they are right now. They're not supposed to be here yet or right now. Mm-hmm. In so many ways, especially with the storyline and how it all developed from Boston and Kevin Love getting hurt to Kyrie in Atlanta Kyrie in Atlanta, and then the first game against Golden State being done for the season. has that perspective of what it means to be here right now versus trying to get here again next year or the year after or the year after. And that's a perspective that Golden State doesn't have because
Right.
this is their first quote. I was almost going to say rodeo. This is their first trip.
Yeah, yeah, and no, I think you're right. LeBron knows, like, because look, I'm sure. I think he learned a lot last year by losing because I think they won those two in a row, and I think they may have thought the three-peat was assumed. Like, oh yeah, of course we're going to get a three-peat, like But then he lost again, and I think he's really realized like when you're there, you have to grab it, and that's where that intangible application of desire comes from. Like, how do I really want it? How do I do that? And then what do I do once I really want it? Like, how does this work? And then how do you mix that in with actually executing the ABs and C's of basketball that we need to do? How do you make all this stuff work together?
Well, and now he's doing it, and it's been so great for Cavs fans who had to endure all of the David Blatt, is LeBron really the coach? The answer is we don't know where the push and pull ends and who's more of a coach, but we know that everybody there right now is qualified to do whatever it is they're doing. So shut up.
Well,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, people complaining about Blatt. I mean, look, if they win it all, like, he's qualified. He did it. Yeah, And frankly, if being a good coach means letting LeBron bully you around, well, good for you, because look what happened to Tom Thibodeau when he tried to throw a hammer on a bunch of players that didn't want it. It didn't work.
Yeah.
So, and Phil Jackson actually was very famous for being knowing when to just step back and just kind of be a babysitter. Like that, often during games, I mean, people used to say all the time, does Phil Jackson, get up and get mad or do anything sometimes, But sometimes he knows like when to let guys work their own problems out, how to make them, and that makes them feel empowered.
Well, and in all of sports where NFL coaches are the most valued or overvalued, however you want to say it, and probably baseball is the least. NBA is closer to baseball than it is NFL. It's all about the stars, it's about the players and their ability to see the game in front of them, because you can only set up so much in the huddle on the sideline, because all of a sudden there's a 5-man defense rotating and doing things in front of you, and LeBron is going to read that, react, and make plays regardless of what David Blatt can say with a grease board.
Right.
And so I don't understand. The controversy just seems so invented. That's all.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, people need stuff to talk about, but
yeah.
I want to talk about the crowd in there last night, and I don't want to say the crowd. I just want to say the collective experience, because it was like I always look. This is rehashing my newsletter, but like I've never been to a sporting event where I really truly felt that the crowd was part of the sporting event happening on the court or the field or whatever you want to say. They always say that. It's always a cliche that's thrown out. You are the real sixth man. Like, we need you now. All that stuff they say to like pump you up and get you to cheer loud. And it's for me, I've always felt like, yes, I'm cheering, I'm screaming, but it's really to my benefit or just because that's what you're supposed to do, or you're excited. It's an expulsion of energy, whatever it is. But like I last night, like from 30 minutes before the game started in that building, I have no idea how much of this came through on TV, but man, everybody was in their seats and they were going absolutely crazy. And it was not just yelling and screaming. It was like, I keep using the word intangible, but it was like an intangible, like, will that was like just coming out of people. And I have never felt that, like, where you actually feel like it is like transferring to the team. And because there was a lot of, I've never seen this before, where there was this much back and forth. And honest to God, it seemed like genuine back and forth. Like there in the fourth quarter, during a lot of the free throws, LeBron would get himself out where people could see him, and he would like kind of wave his arms to quiet people down, and like people would quiet down, and then. But then, like when Golden State was making their runs and we get the ball back, like the crowd would really just rise up and just I've never felt, and I probably sound like a crazy person. I don't care. I have never felt like so involved in a game where I actually felt like my fan activity was mattered.
No, they did. The crowd, even on TV in the bar, felt like a part of the story, and you could see, all right, well, this is a big possession. The Cavaliers just rebounded a miss, and you see the lower bowl slowly start to just stand up, and we could see it on TV. I couldn't hear it real well, but and it was, and I don't want to overstate how, because it's silly to try and tell you that, but people were acting positively goofy in the bar too, pretending like they were sitting there too, and chanting and cheering. And I've never seen, and I've been around when the Indians were going crazy, and going to the World Series, and I don't remember it ever being this infectious, this much of a communal experience. And obviously, from what you're telling me, it absolutely carried over straight into the arena.
It is. It's different. It's different, and
it felt different that opener when we all went to see them lose to the Knicks.
And I'm telling you this. I mean, this LeBron story. It is one of the greatest stories in the history of sports.
I don't want it to end.
No, I don't either. But it just is, and that's. I mean, I think that people really, his whole thing always since he got drafted was, he's the chosen one. He's from here, and he's going to do it, and he's going to be the one to save us. And then he left, and he was never one of us. Oh, and then he comes back with that amazing letter, and he is one of us. And now, like, this is happening, and he's with this team that has every reason to just mail it in and lose because they've lost two All-Stars and one really good starter over the course of the season at like times where it's just like boom, boom, boom. They could have given up any number of times, and it is like such a Cleveland thing to just say, screw that. I'm going to keep going, and it's him that's leading that. And that's why I say, like, he is finally one of us, and like he embraces it. And like that thing he did in that press conference after game 2 where he sent the message to the fans and said, I cannot wait to see you guys. I can't wait to come home. It just, everything he does is so manufactured, but it feels real.
No, and it's true. It feels like all of our, especially, you had a sports blog, and you're still at least tangentially involved in the sports talk community and whatever else. And it feels like our entire sports lives have kind of built to this, and we were overly defensive and sensitive to the misery montages, and nothing is impacting me right now. They can show that misery montage 150 times in my face, and it's a non-factor. That doesn't mean that I'm guaranteeing LeBron and the Cavaliers are going to win. It just means that, like them, I've got nothing to lose. There's nothing else you can do to me. This is the best we've got. They're putting it all out there, and I'm part of it. And
that's it's interesting you mentioned that montage, because just this morning driving around, I said I want them to show it on the scoreboard I want to see it. Like let's get it out. Let's own it and crush it.
Take away the power.
Yes, let's own it, and let's say this is it.
And we used to own it. We used to own it, and then we felt like other people started using it against us, and I was completely overly sensitive to it. But over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, I feel like we've all grown to this point, and if they somehow find a way to win 2 more games, it's going to just be the perfect ending to the perfect story.
Yeah, and I would love it if it would be great if it happened in 6, but a big part of me would rather just get it over with in 5. But
or 7, I don't care. Just do it.
But I'll take 6 would be the best.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, because it'd be nice to do it at home, but I don't want to throw away game 5 just for that reason. But yeah, I would love it if it was like game 6 and it's like the 4th quarter and like they just play the montage.
And I don't want to think about game 7, by the way.
No. But they just play the montage in game 6, and the crowd is just like, yes, that's this is the exorcism right here. We're doing it. You could just God, this is why if this happens, like LeBron is in some ways elevated above Jordan, because there are other guys that are going to have other superstars. They're going to have the capability to win 6 rings and to be a 12-time All-Star and to do all those things. And but there is nobody who will ever be able to do this.
Nope.
But what he is doing, the championship drought, the best player in the league. He's from here. The leaving, the coming back, all the drama. This is, and then this team who has been decimated by injuries and is just doing it with this undrafted Australian kid. It's just,
And it might still work as an inspirational story, even if they don't pull it out. But I don't even want to hear about it. I don't want to hear. I just want to see them finish it out because they can. They've shown that they can.
Yeah,
they've shown they've got the maturity and the experience and everything else. And they've never. No Cleveland team in my lifetime has ever been in such a good position. And
we've never been ahead in a championship series since 1948.
The Indians were never ahead, were they? Okay. I don't know. I'm a bad sports historian, but
yeah. Well, I don't know that. I just read it this morning.
Somebody said it.
Yeah,
I believe them. Well, thanks so much for coming on. Hopefully, we have two more really awesome, great, historic wins.
I'm in a great. I'm trying to figure out what to do about tickets. Like, I want to go back. I want to be there again, and they're so expensive. And I've been setting aside money for it, as people know. But like game 4, do I wait for 6? I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Part of me says buy whatever I need to be there whenever I need to be there and deal with it later. Because a year from now, I'm not going to be like, oh man, I really missed that $500. You know,
you can always make more money.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see what happens. But I just it was such an amazing experience. I just want to do it again. So
cool, man.
All right.
Thanks so much. And everybody else, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you stay tuned. Tell a friend. We're having a lot of fun doing this podcast right now. So until next time, it's been the WaitingForNextYear.com podcast.
Waiting for next year. Waiting for next year.